Welcome, Santina, to
Thank you for
weMove
having
podcast.
Me. Yeah.
So, as we always do, we've been speaking before we record. But Ashtanga, in fact, a friend of ours said you should do more on Ashtanga because we both practice it. And I was like, we don't, we're not really there.
Where's there?
Well, exactly. And then we're like, okay, let's just, and yourself and Eddie so it's interesting. So I think it's been really important for us, the practice, and it's informed us in a huge way from breath work. And we spent a lot of time with Wim and with other breathwork practitioners and getting in ice baths. And they're like, how do you do this? And Ashtanga. Ashtanga's been, but it also gets a really bad rep. So we were like, okay, it's probably misunderstood more than it gets a bad rep. And then friends of ours who are yoga teachers, and the person I'm really thinking of will know when they listen to this, what I'm saying. They're like, Ashtangas are a certain way. And I don't think they are. I think it's just a misunderstanding, because it is quite precise, but in that precision gives a huge amount of freedom. Mm. And that's maybe something that society doesn't really like anymore. So anyway, we're here because of all of those things. Mm. And Chris and I loved your posts, the long form nature of it, how you are in teaching. It's just quite fun to watch and listen to. And it's like, I want that. I want some of that.
It's a show.
Yeah. And it just sparked our curiosity on you. And then we messaged you. Yeah. And you're like, you're amazing. You're in, we will come to Oxford. So we pilgrimaged up to Oxford.
Where are you from?
Brighton, London.
Are you serious? You came all this way to...
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks for taking the time to see us.
I'm scared.
Nah.
Not.
So, for people who are listening, and some people will be watching on Instagram, can you just give a rundown in not how you came here, but how you began to practice Ashtanga? Okay.
So I came to Astanga through heroin addiction. I was a heroin addict when I started. The story is long, but the story goes like this. I met my husband, I fell in love, I moved from Melbourne to the Gold Coast, so 2,000 kilometres north from Melbourne, where I was a heroin addict. Fell in love with him, moved to meet him, decided that I'd already been a heroin addict for 11 years. I decided that I wanted to get off the junk. It was a massive story, so I don't know if you really want me to tell you the whole story now.
Yeah, go for it.
You do?
Yeah.
All right. So, my husband found me uptown on the Gold Coast one evening when I was on the Gold Coast during a family holiday. My parents had taken me to the Gold Coast on a family holiday. I was a heroin addict on the methadone program, and I went uptown to find heroin, and my husband found me. And we took drugs together. I went back to his house. He was the first guy in many, many years who didn't ask me for sex, for drugs. And long story short, he chased me around Melbourne for many, many months until he finally got me on the Gold Coast. And he just accepted me fully as a heroin addict. And in that time, I found a level of relief with him and a level of settling. And so then I decided I wanted to finish my law degree. So I finished my law degree in Brisbane, which is 100 kilometres north of the Gold Coast. And I decided that I wanted to get back on the methadone program and get off heroin. And so I did. And I was running and boxing and swimming and doing everything to clean up my act, right? It was working, but there was something missing. And then I was at university one day and I saw this sign that said Ashtanga yoga, and I went, okay, try this. And I slipped into the class and I came out like that. open, wide awake, completely like expansive, like I was on drugs, pretty much. And then I got home, I went home after the yoga practice, and my husband said to me, "What have you taken?" Like he thought that I was on drugs again, right? And I said, "Nothing, I just experienced this 1.5 hour practice called Ashtanga yoga, and it just blew my brains out, it just blew the circuitry. Everything was greener, everything was brighter, everything smelt better. It was like I was on LSD. So that was it. 6 days a week for the last 15 years, this is me." So that's how I got into it. I just fell in love. So I found my teacher. I practiced with him 10 years. And then I found my other teacher, Shadat Joyce. And yeah, here I am.
Wow. What was it about the practice that, or was there one thing, or was it just the feeling at the end?
That initial instant?
Yeah.
I think it was the first time ever that I had experienced an intimate relationship with my body. I think it was the first time I'd ever experienced that kind of resounding vibration. Like I was connected to something more than I'd ever experienced. Like it was like this spirit had been awakened inside, and and I never ever felt that feeling. There was something that was resounding that I was like that. And I came out like that. But also in that pulpability, like that, there was a smoothness where I was kind of like, oh, this is all right. I'm going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. And I still get that today. Like I go into the practice in one state, and I do my practice and I'm finished. I'm like, relief. So it's like it kind of somehow soothes the tension.
When you're saying it's the first time you were ever connected with your body, unless you've done yoga, kind of hard to understand what that means. And I think probably for a lot of people out there who do yoga, it's kind of hard to understand what that means. Connected to your body, how? Like, how does going into the class for the first time ever, you walk into a class and connect to your body? How do you interpret that?
How do I offer an explanation about that? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. As in all of a sudden your body's doing things that it was never doing before, or you're spending time thinking about things that...
It's an experience of being out of my head, right? It's an experience of feeling my body in space. It's a feeling of being able to feel bits and pieces that I have not ever felt before, right? And so in that, my mind stops. And when my mind stops, I feel a little bit of relief and a feeling of like, it's going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. I don't have to try so hard. I'm just feeling into this. That's my initial experience. And as I practice more and more Ashtanga, it's like even more subtle and even more deep and even more like an inner body resounding. It's like for me, the more Ashtanga I practice, the more I feel like I'm in the quantum field. Like I become like more of a slidey animal rather than a human. I'm like, everything kind of just like feels relaxed. The more, and I feel into an energetic body. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I think that's fucking amazing.
And the more I practice, the more I feel like I'm on the drug trip that I was looking for the whole time.
Wow.
But this is my own energy now. I'm using my own energy to move through tension and restriction and ideas that are not true. And so when I move, it's like, oh goodness, I've got an armpit. Wow, I've never felt that armpit before. Oh my goodness, I can feel the tips of my fingers. wow, I've never felt them before. Oh my God, I've got a knuckle. There it is, wow. And and then I feel that, and I feel into the elbow, and then into the arm, and then down into the kidney, and down into the pelvic floor, and you're like, you just become amazed. You're like amazed at the human body, and the more you experience that wonderment, the more you fall in love with practice. And I haven't felt it on anything other than the Ashtanga method.
Is this why then, just prior to us pressing record, we were asking you about your teaching style and why you don't do adjustments, and you talk to people so it empowers them in their own practice? Is this why then you don't do adjustments, because it empowers people if they have to do it and they have to connect to their body rather than being maneuvered into a position?
First, the body is sacred. Who am I to come in and place my ideas on how the posture should feel or how the posture should be on a body that I know nothing about? This is someone else's body. I don't know what's going on in there. I can have an intuitive feeling, I can have an intuitive insight, but I still, who am I to go in and impose my energy? Right? That's number one. Number two, it's all about energy, right? So if my energy is grounded and my energy is solid, and I come in and I just touch you, your body will respond to my energy. Right? And then my deepest wish for you is to feel that you are in there and you have complete and utter control over what is going on in there. Not because you're any better than anyone else, but by the sheer grace of spirit, by the sheer intelligence of grace, of God, that's in there. And my wish for you, my wish is to give you a little bit of a taste of how you can do that for yourself. Right? So I just give a slight direction like this, and the body moves. This is slides. And then I use my voice to direct you based on what I see in time and space of maybe where you could move to feel some more connection, more expansion. And then I use my energy. I use my presence to direct you. As soon as I turn up fully in the present moment, you turn up and you go, I didn't know if I'm meant to swear then, is that right?
You swear.
Right. So, like if I turn up fully, you go, I'm going to do this practice.
Yeah, it's like a supercharge.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You're passing that on to someone.
It's a transmission. Like if you go to Shadant, my teacher, you're just hanging out with him and you feel the transmission, right? And it's the same with the students in the room. The students turn up for themselves and for you when you are awake. And that's not like turn it on in like some contrived
performance.
Nah, you're just present. You're just alive in your body, and your practice informs the evidence of how you turn up. And you're in contact intimately with the comings and goings inside of you, your own energy, where you're experiencing stuff being with students. Because they're slunging out their karmic sludge at you, right? It's a karmic sludge in that Mysore room. And you have to be very clear on what you project out. So you have to be intimate with your inner energy, your inner dialogue, everything that's going on. So it's a tough gig, but worth it. Yeah. So I teach with who I am. Doesn't matter how much information you got. You can get as much information out there as, like in terms of cues. But unless you know how to manage your energy in the room, that student ain't going to shift. That's how I feel. That student shifts because of who you are. And then they get a taste of that, and they wake up to that, and they experience that for themselves, and then they become self-reliant. But you have to create the foundation for them to to flower in that, to awaken in that. I don't know if any of that made sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Does a lot. I watched your Mysore film.
Oh, The Mystery of Mysore.
Yeah, yeah. It's really good. And you talked about karmic sludge was something that I wrote down.
Yeah. It's
You know,
all
as I
coming
was
out.
watching.
Right? It's all coming out in that room.
Mm. How do you describe that? So we will have people that, well, they don't practice Ashtanga. They might have gone to a yoga class and it can all seem a bit woo-woo. Ashtanga seems quite real.
Yeah.
As opposed to it's just trimmed of all the excess floweriness. And you're in it and you're dealing with whatever it is that is. How do you describe karmic sludge?
In the Mysore room?
Yeah, for people that, because I'm sure everyone experiences it. You know, they'll go into an office and they'll feel other people's karmic sludge, but it's quite nice for it to have a name, because then you can recognize it and go, oh, that's just sludgy.
Yeah, so it's like all of the undigested and unprocessed emotional charges that get churned in the Ashtanga practice. So that's all of your resentments, all of your hatreds, all your jealousy, all of your unfinished business that you're not usually consciously aware of.
Mm.
You might be consciously aware of a little bit, but you're not consciously aware of the depth of it, nor are you consciously aware of where it's getting projected out to. And the Ashtanga system, what my experience of it is churning all of that debris. It's like a big churning inside. And then it gets slung out in the Mysore room because everyone's facing their stuff. Everyone's facing their sufferings, everyone's facing their limitations, everyone's facing their unworthiness.
Do people get trapped in that?
They can.
Because it's a purifying system.
Yeah, it is. It's a cleansing system, yeah. I think you can get trapped in the story of it.
Yeah.
But I think that if you're in a community, or if you're with a teacher that is doing that deeper level of inner work, they can support you to move through that and to find the right resources to move through that. Like for me, I had to use a method called Gestalt method, right, to pick up where the Ashtanga method, for me personally, I'm not saying this for everyone, but for me personally, left me hanging there. Right? I was just angry and resentful and a bitch, basically. It was just a bit. My husband said, "You're just a bitch. This Ashtanga is not working. It cleaned up your act, but now you're just a bitch. You're just angry all the time." And so the Gestalt method kind of helped me process those childhood charges, I call them, unprocessed childhood charges that were still hanging around in there.
What is the
Gestalt method.
Gestalt method? Gestalt, have you got 2 weeks? In a very simple, it's a psychotherapy, right? It's a psychotherapy, it's a modality whereby you sit with a therapist and that therapist helps you to make meaning of your world through your relationships. And primarily that relationship with yourself. So we look at how you are more in contact or out of contact with yourself in the moment. So the Ashtanga method doesn't actually dig up anything from the past. It only brings stuff from the past if it's stopping you being present in the moment and how you're relating to that part of yourself in the moment. Did that make sense?
Mm. What's coming into my head is whether Ashtanga was designed in that way.
Yes, that's why they augment each other wonderfully, because you're developing this relationship with a teacher, right? And that's one. And then second, as soon as you roll out the mat, you are facing the relationship that you have with yourself in every movement. And when you stand at the front of your mat in Samastiti, you're like, oh yeah, right, holy fuck.
Here we go.
This is me again. And so you have to come into deep relational contact with those aspects of yourself that you don't necessarily like, nor are you necessarily going to attend to. You don't want to attend to those parts of yourself. Just keep them in the shadows. So it brings the unconscious here now. Through the as therapist being in that exchange with you. And so again, you have to create a relationship with the therapist. And that's what I like about Ashtanga and Gestalt. It's like Ashtanga churns it up, Gestalt helps you piece it back together, and then Gestalt churns it up, the Ashtanga helps you piece it back together, and together those methods are just dismantling each other the whole time, helping you to dismantle yourself. And then at some level there in the unknown, you start to make meaning.
Do you need to have a teacher to do that? Is it fair to use the word guru in replacement for teacher?
I think you need a teacher for a little bit of time. You need a teacher to hold you there. Because you won't fucking do it. It's too hard. There's too much going on. There's too many distractions, right? You just escape. You just go and do some other form of movement. Not saying that you can't find that depth in other forms of movement. But the Ashtanga method, it's a razor's edge. So unless that you develop that relationship where you can kind of allow your psyche to feel safe and supported with the level of work, and I mean inner work, that the teacher has done to hold you there. Right? And then, at some point, I think you got to go and do your own thing and do that work yourself. I don't know about gurus. I don't have any. I have a teacher, Sharatji, and then that's it.
How did you find your first teacher then? Because it's obviously of the absolute paramount importance to find the right teacher. Someone who's done that work, and that's someone who can hold you there when you're, trying to get out the door.
Yeah. How did I find my teacher?
Yeah. Because that would be the first question. Okay, I want to do Ashtanga. I've just heard how important it is to find the teacher. How do I find my teacher?
Yeah. So, I don't know whether there's a...
And of course, it's not like a...
Yeah, I don't think there's a program that you can...
So how did you find yours then?
Okay, how did I find mine? So I did one class at the university, and then I was trying to find an Ashtanga place, and I wasn't at that university long enough to develop a relationship with the teacher that was there. So I went to a kind of like hybrid Ashtanga, not really endowed in the method yoga class, but they were trying to teach Ashtanga, but they weren't really devoted to it. It was kind of like hybrid. And the teacher in there just looked at me and went, "You need to go and see this man." She was beautiful enough and kind enough to go, "This is your man.
Yeah.
Toddle off down there." And I did, and I walked in, and Mark Togby, I love him so much. He looked at me. He's big, tall Zen monk, like really tall and really skinny. He looked at me, and I was like I was a recovering heroin addict, basically. He looked at me and he went, "Come in, I can help you." And that was it. I just let go. For 4 or 5 years, I just let go. I just, come on, all right, yeah. I'm doing it. And I did it. And I did like the whole of 4th series in like 4 years. He just flogged my ass. And it worked. It got me off the junk. It got me off the cocaine, it got me off everything. The cigarettes, the marijuana, everything. It just cleaned my act up. It sliced me up. It sliced up this. It sliced me up a lot, and that's where Gestalt helped me to piece together the puzzle.
Feels like sieving. Just the sieves just go underneath each other.
The way I'd kind of describe it is that the method just churns you. Churns everything. And then what's underneath comes to the surface, the debris. And then you got to clean off the scum, the sludge. The karmic sludge has to be cleaned off. And you do that again every morning.
What impact does that have on your everyday life? Your relationships, your
everything.
way-being?
It like destroys everything you know about yourself, but in a really not necessarily comfortable, but nourishing way. It's like when you're sick and you got to eat food that you don't want to eat because it's not very palatable, but it feels right and it feels nourishing. And the Ashtanga method is like that. Oh, that's my husband. He's always looking out for me, hey? He's hanging over my shoulder there. I love him. Yeah, it's like that. That's like what Ashtanga is. It's like it doesn't necessarily, it's not fun all the time, and it doesn't taste good all the time, but there's something very like satisfying and like comforting in the relief you feel from eating that medicine that is like, and then some days it's like, and you're always, It's not for everyone.
Yeah, because
I'm telling you, it's not for the dabblers. You're either you're in or you're out.
Because that just makes me think of when you can go to sports clubs or gyms and it's like, we do a yoga class on a Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. And then it's followed by Zumba and then and there's almost like two kinds of yoga in this world, right? I mean, there's obviously different subsections of yoga, but the people that are kind of dabbling and want to do their weekly class followed by their Zumba, followed by their, whatever, abs, bums and tums or something. And then there's the people that are kind of turning up and like yourself.
Well, it's like Ashtanga is a spiritual journey, right? The method is a framework for you to embark on a psycho-spiritual, emotional journey into the depth of who the fuck you are. So, if you don't want to sign up for that, don't sign up for Ashtanga. There's other ways to enjoy your life, right? If you want to sign up to that emotional journey to the inside and to the interior of who you are, this one works. I'm testament to that. Right? I'm testament to that. I've been clean now 15 years from this method. And it's not easy, but it's worth it. I love it. I don't know what else to say. I love it.
When you say it's worth it, why? Is that the connection it then gives with yourself? Because other people will be like, oh yeah, I just like to go and play badminton 3 nights a week, and then that's...
Okay, so for me, badminton, and it might for someone else, but for me, badminton doesn't shift this psyche. It doesn't shift the perspective of myself. It doesn't give me a deeper layer of entry into my self-concept. It doesn't slice. Something happens when I breathe in a certain way and I move in a certain way that affects my nervous system, that moves me from one state when I walk in into another state when I leave that mat. And then you do that day after day, year after year, and you fall in love with that emotional journey. You fall in love with it. And you want more of it, and you keep on doing it, and then wake up, one morning, you wake up in the middle of the night at 3 fucking o'clock and go, yeah, holy fuck, I've changed. I'm fucking different. It's like, are you serious? And then you start to see the illusion and the lie that you've been living. And that dismantles a lot of people. Mm. So then they leave the practice. But if you have a strong... Okay, I'm just going to give it to you.
Please do.
If you're fucking suffering, you'll continue. Right? Because in that, you wake up. And then you want more of that because you fall in love with the waking up process. And then you fall asleep for a little, and then you wake up again and fall asleep. And you fall in love with shedding the layers of suffering, of illusion. And you experience a feeling of embodiment and presence. And it's not always what you want it to be, but at least you feel alive. And for me, the most important thing is understanding myself. I want to understand myself. And the practice provides a framework every morning to have this appointment with myself so I can make meaning of life and myself in relationship to myself and life and everyone in my life. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. Again, what's sort of that when people talk about Ashtanga, they don't like the framework because it's too restrictive, almost. Not Ashtangas. I think it's just it's kind of a bliss when you can turn up. You just turn up and you just follow, and there's a freedom in and a surrender in that following just of the physical sequence, which people don't like. And maybe it's everyone wants the fun without the suffering or hard work or...
I don't know what the answer to that is, but what I know is that, I think humans, they want to be led, right? I think humans don't really want to take responsibility to listen to their inner guidance system. Right? Just tell me what to do and I'll do it and I'll be fine. Rather than you having to go into the unknown and go into the darkness and go into the silence to figure out who the fuck you are and what the fuck you need. So it's easy to just go to a class and get led. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that the Ashtanga method, if you practice daily, it might the framework of drishti, bandha, posture, and the postures that you do the same, there's a rigidity. It's not even rigidity, because when you do it every day and you go inside, it's not rigid. You find freedom in that discipline. You just let go. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. You get in there and you feel alive. You have to have a tenacity to attend to all of the emotional that's coming to the surface as you face it. All of your unworthiness, all of your depression, all of your questions, all of your yearnings, all of your longings. And it's all there for you. And you have to do it yourself. No one wants to do it themselves. They don't want to do it. It's hard. It's human to not want to do it. It's okay to not want to do it. But for me, it doesn't work. I got to do it. I want to be alive. I don't know if that's any help to you guys.
Yeah, I think we're both just sat here kind of just taking it all in.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
Piecing it together from how I feel.
How you feel in your practice? Or
Yeah, practice and life. I mean, they both seem quite similar. I came to Ashtanga and you can see the patterns in yourself. Well, I can see the patterns in myself that happened with climbing, with business, and you're like, okay, I don't know why, but I'm going to stick this one out.
How come you stuck it out?
Well, I ask myself that.
So
regularly.
So ask right now. I'm asking you right now, how come you stuck it out?
Because those patterns don't serve me, because I'm then not seeing where I can actually get to. I'm like, it's easy to turn away and go, oh, I could have been really good at that. And it doesn't feel like a true expression of me. And it's like, okay, I'll see how good I am or can be. I just keep having to turn up, even when I don't want to, because it's easy, you know. And I think Ashtanga is it's a physical practice, and I'm quite physically capable. I have a physically capable body, so you can bypass a few things.
Yes.
And you can, and people can go, oh, you could be really good at this, and say, yeah, cool, I don't need to do that anymore. And then it's like, okay, just stay with that. Like when people say that, that's when then it starts. It starts at that point, as opposed to the, oh yeah, all the easy, but I can, you know, you can do all those bits, or I can do all those bits, and then as soon as you get the praise, it's almost like that's the bit that people want. It's like, don't give me praise. Just almost, I can say that to people before I don't want to be praised that I'm capable or this or that. I want to be supported to get through the next bit, because for me, that's when the work starts.
So what's the next bit?
What's the next bit for me?
Yeah.
It's continuing to turn up. Even when I don't want to, because it's really easy to go, I just don't need to.
Yeah. You just go through the motions.
Yeah. And in the last, say, month, it's been really interesting with my practice. When I'm not flowing, it will take about an hour and a half. I could make it last all day. It's just, you know, sooner or later, it'll be a war of attrition between me and the shala, and the shala will want to close, and I can go, cool, right, I don't need to do it. And then when it's flowing, it's like 50 minutes.
Yeah. And
I come out going, I've no idea what happened, but that was amazing. It happened when you were staying at mine, actually. I was just through it, and I was like, I don't even know what's happened then. And then I'll go back the following week. And
so you're saying you're missing a level?
Am I missing a level? I think I'm in a sort of a ground hog.
Yeah, so you're missing a level.
Yeah. And it just keeps me there.
Yeah, so in that, unless you are willing to set a deep intention to make your practice an emotional journey to the inside of who you are, it's just going to be another form of
physical exercise.
You literally have to embark on the journey within, to the interior. And that means you have to go into the darkness, into the shadow. And in every posture, in every moment, you're creating an intimate dialogue to the internal, to the emotional, to the psychological, to the psycho-spiritual inside. Then the practice takes on a whole new form. You fall in love again and again and again, and then you come up against doubt and you come up against resistance and you take another step and you go in a little bit deeper and you fall in love again, and then it opens up a whole new level and you're like, holy fuck, there's another door. Can't wait to get on your mat. And then you don't want to get on your mat. And then you can't wait to get on your mat. And there's a whole new level of love and devotion. And then you're just in awe. And the practice is just a framework to experience the awe of your humanness.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And then you wake up one day and it's all gone and you're like, what the fuck's all this about? It's pointless. And then you practice again and you're in love again. And you're in this constant psychodrama. And some days you wake up and you're like, yeah, I've changed. Wow. And slowly you start to wake up. And you start to develop a deep appreciation for life, for existence, for just being alive, for you, and a reverence for life, a sanctity for life. And the practice is a framework, a method for you to experience that and to work through all of the stuff that holds you back from experiencing that. And a teacher that has experienced that can support you to experience that. And sometimes there doesn't even need to be words. They just feel it. You just feel it. It's a feeling. When I go to that teacher, that's how I feel. I'm just going to raise my arms. It's painful, but I'm going to raise my arms. And I'm going to fold forward and I'm just going to keep doing it. And seriously, it's not for everyone. Either you're in or you're out. I know that sounds really harsh, but it's like that. Ashtanga's like that.
Anything of worth is like that.
You
either in or
really
you're out.
have to devote yourself. You really, and the doubt is going to come up with the devotion, and the devotion is going to come up with the doubt, and you're constantly in this paradox. And eventually, only you can work through it. Mm-hmm. Only you can. And it's like when you're climbing a mountain, only you can work through your fears, right? And your physical restrictions on that mountain, only you can do it. It's the same in your practice. I don't know whether any of the other Ashtangis are experiencing this. This is just me. This is the insanity that I go through every day. But I love it. What else? What else? When you've eaten all the food you can eat, you've had all the sex you can have, you've taken all the drugs you can take, what else? Just practice. Wake up, and you don't think you're waking up, and then one day you just awake. Never saw that before, never experienced that before, never felt that before. Wow. I'm in here.
Is the almost the mind-blowing nature of it because you feel it without anything from the external?
Yeah, I don't know if you believe in God, but there's an intelligence that I believe is running the planet, and when you do the Ashtanga method and you connect with your breath and you do the postures and the bandhas, and There's an experience of something greater than you moving in there. And no one can give it to you. It's just there. It's there. And you have to take full responsibility in that moment to feel for it. But in that, you got to go into the unknown, right? And it's scary.
That's the bit that people don't like.
Because they have to let go of all their concepts and all their ideas of life and themselves and everything they've been told about life and themselves.
Devotion pops into my head as you have to be devoted. Ashtanga's had a bad rep recently or maybe over the last few years, about this devotional, almost blind following of someone or something, and really, or is that being looking at the wrong thing? Really, the devotion is with yourself, and within it's not the teacher. The teacher's just like a finger pointing you over. Just keep going,
For me, it's the devotion to the method, right? For me to be experiencing myself, right? So the method offers something, some framework where I can go in and experience myself. So I'm devoted to that. I just am appreciative and deeply reverent to all of the teachers that somehow, through their energy and through their practice, hold me in that. So that's Sharat and all the other teachers on the planet and all the other practitioners on the planet. The consciousness comes together and holds me there for me to do my work. This work, this inner work. I'm devoted to that. And I'm devoted to all the other practitioners and all the other teachers that hold me and themselves in that. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. And you know what? It's really hard if you're not in the Ashtanga way to perhaps comprehend that. So it becomes very easy to kind of mudsling. How can you understand something if you don't know it?
Like when you go to Mysore and you're in the shala with Sharat and all the other practitioners and everyone's doing their work, it's so beautiful, right? And it's so... There's a level of relief that comes with being supported by a group of people all doing their work, who are devoted to doing their work. What is their work? Working through their shit. Right? Waking up, working through the illusions of themselves. They're all doing that in the shala. And Sharat, he's just holding everyone there. But everyone's holding everyone there, and they're devoted to that. I don't know whether they're devoted to any guru or whatever. That's their business. But what I feel is the devotion to the method that helps us do our work. My work. Like if I didn't do my work, I would be dead. If I didn't have this practice, I'd be dead or in jail. Right? And the only reason why I'm not dead and in jail is because I've used the practice, I've used the method to go into the interior of myself. To be able to translate this. That's what I do in the Mysore class. I use my work to hold someone else to do their work. Now, I don't believe you need really hardcore adjustments to help someone do their work.
Is there any other work to be done?
Other than this?
Yeah. There can't be.
No.
And also, if you're not doing it now, you're going to be doing it at some stage.
What else are you going to do? You're gonna, at some point, you're going to have to come up against yourself.
Precisely.
Whether it's on the Ashtanga mat, or whether it's in an intimate relationship with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your child, or you've busted up a leg, or you've gone financially bankrupt, you're going to face yourself. So if you're lucky enough to be gifted the method of Ashtanga, at least you've got a whole community of people that are doing it. Right? And at least you've got a point of reference to come back to every morning. It's awesome. What else?
Mm. The point of reference is really important for people going through that.
Right? And then the thing is that because there's all these people doing it, and there's people that have gone through it, you feel into the community and you know there's someone there that I can talk to this about. And you reach out to them and they're beautiful. This is how it is for me. All right, I'm experiencing that. It's all right. I'm going to be all right. But just get on your mat, roll out your mat and do your practice. You'll feel all right. You feel better. There's some relief from yourself. Right? Because all it is the competition with you and you, right? Are you fucking serious? I love it. It's not for everyone.
No, but the work's for everyone.
Yeah, but you don't have to do that work in Ashtanga. The work is for everyone. Well, if you're on a spiritual journey, the work is for everyone.
You could say that we're all on a spiritual journey, whether you realise it, whether one realises it or not.
Yes.
And it's a blessing to find that thing that puts you face to face with yourself.
Like we said, it gives you a reference point to come back to every morning.
Yeah, there's no wriggle room when it doesn't change.
But it's like this. You practice, you do the right eating, you do the right sleeping, you find bits and pieces that support you to a certain point, and then the practice doesn't work anymore, right? What happens is, well, for me, it's like the practice stops, you stop getting that effect from the practice. And you start to doubt it, and you want to hand it all in, and you want to go find something else, right? And then the practice has only just started at that point. Because that's when you have to go deep inside to find out what the practice really offers and what it really means to you. But I don't think that's just in Ashtanga. I think that's in every spiritual practice. When it all stops working and the doubt comes in, you have to start asking and reflecting on the deeper aspects of yourself.
Is everything a spiritual practice?
Yeah. It's like I'm sitting here with you and I watch myself going in and out of presence, right? True?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like that's a spiritual practice, right? I'm here and then I'm gone, I'm then here. How much of me is where? So yeah. So that's a spiritual practice. Learning and training myself to be present here without putting on a fucking show. Just being real. You know, my biggest spiritual practice is my marriage. Being in relationship with a man is my biggest spiritual practice. Because I'm just a self-absorbed bitch. And so I have to learn to be present. With him and with myself all the time. Ashtanga helps me with that. You got a question?
No. No. Maybe James would disagree with this. It's one of those conversations you have and you're like, oh, I need to go away, and you stay with it. I can keep up with it as we're having the conversation, but there's also one of those conversations where I'm like, I just want to go back and listen to that again, reflect on that and take that in, and then come back and ask more questions.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Without just having a conversation for the sake of having a conversation.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, that's amazing. I almost feel like I want to do a part 2.
Yeah.
This is very unusual for me to say, but I'm almost like,
Well, we can.
I'm almost like we're
Me
an
too,
hour in. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's enough. It sounds really bizarre, but it's like there's so much to contemplate within that hour.
When are you here till?
Wednesday. And then I'm going to London. I fly out of London on Wednesday.
I'm not sure if we can do. I'm not sure if we can do another one before Wednesday. But when are you back?
I'm not sure.
But we could do a Zoom one. We could do another conversation, but do it online.
Yeah.
I feel that's the best thing to do because.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much.
Well, I watched you guys go into your process.
Well,
as I was talking, you were like, I'm going somewhere.
Well, you know what? Even simply for me, like that's James's practice. My practice is that I came to Ashtanga maybe about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, my body just being broken from many years of football and actually just trying to find something to begin the healing process with it. And tried a few different yogas and hit on Ashtanga. I was like, great, because this is kind of like a workout. You know, so like this is, you know...
It ticks the boxes for
yeah,
guys.
Yeah, it did. And I was like, you know, I want to work out. I don't want to fucking do this like, you know, shit where I'm just like holding a pose. You know, like this is tough work. Yeah. This is physically tough. Yeah. And I did it... No. And I did it, you know, every Sunday for a year. And I didn't really know much about it other than like I would just turn up to a yoga class on a Sunday. And I really...
And your good friend, was it Philippa?
Well, I just really connected with the teacher. I think she's appreciated the fact that I would turn up every Sunday. And there was lots of people that would turn up every Sunday. But I didn't understand the concept of Mysore. I didn't understand that you could do it every morning. I was like, well, I just want to do a yoga class once a week. And you know what? I'm more flexible now than I was a month ago. And I'm more flexible, you know, now than I was 2 months ago, so on and so forth. Until I got to a point where actually I just had a physical injury and I kind of had to stop and then kind of fell out of love with it and then kind of came back into it. And I kind of was doing it for a few months, you know, and I'd do it every day and then I wouldn't and da-da-da. And the reason I say this is because you were saying you're Irene and you're out and I was like, oh, you know what? This is actually really reflective of a lot of things in my life. I can do it and I kind of will turn up and do it a couple of days a week and I might not and then I might do something else and I like to jump from this to that and I'm kind of committed but I'm not really kind of committed and so when you're talking I'm like fuck, Ashtanga's like just reflecting back to me basically my life where I'm like I'm kind of in but I'm kind of not with many different things, you know, be that relationships and other practices and so that's why I'm like kind of just need to go away and think about this conversation a bit more and maybe we should just stop the conversation here and then catch up again in a short while. And I think I say that with a bit of confidence because I know that we've had a really good conversation for an hour and it's not 5 minutes into the conversation.
Yeah.
That
I'm happy to do that.
And, you know, knowing James's, you know, connection with his practice, which is more committed to mine, more committed than mine. And so that's why I'm like, you know, why don't we end the conversation now and then pick the mics back up or pick it up on Skype or something every few months or every few weeks or whatever, or to the next time, or, you know, until the next conversation is the right time to have.
Yeah. I feel like weMove, this whole project for us has almost been like an Ashtanga practice because we've uncovered so much about ourselves in 4 years, you know, and I think the one great thing, many great things have come from it, but the relationship that Chris and I have, which has been like having a great teacher. So we, as I was saying, we met and we went straight to the mountains, 3 days in the mountains running. Then 6 months later, we ended up in a car driving from LA to Big Sur, just like really intense experiences where everything was open. You were going through you know, relationship stuff, and we were just like there, and you're dealing with it, and you're away, and then you marvel at this, you know, the beauty of Big Sur and the big sky, and you're like, oh, everything will be all right because it's way bigger than we are. And just the whole weMove project has been, like Ashtanga, and then it comes down into a day where we're on the mat, and I really don't want to be here because my knee hurts, and I just stop telling me them. You know.
Or to add to that, you do all this work, really committed to doing the work. Conversely, as I've just said, that I'm in and out of doing the commitment, but then you just have a really fucking shit week, and you're like, I'm a worse person than what I was when I began this. So
Incorrect method. Not true.
No. I'm not saying that's true, but it feels like you're like, I feel like a worse person than when I began. Why the fuck am I even doing any of this stuff if what's happening is now that this is what's coming out of me now, this is what's being expressed. Similar, I guess, to what you were saying when your husband was saying you were just angry. And so then you start to question all the work, because you're like, wait, like,
what's the point in doing any of the work if I'm going to feel worse than I did when I didn't know about it?
Yeah, and I'm, you know, in this moment, I'm a worse person to myself. I've become destructive. In this moment, I've become utterly self-destructive and destructive to the people around me, which I understand on a deeper level is part of the process or part of going through it. But it's very hard to comprehend that when you're like not just pressing the self-destruct button. You're like, fucking, where's the nuclear key? I just want to press the nuclear button. So, you know, it's kind of hard at times, a lot of the time.
That's why no one wants to practice. That's why people give up Ashtanga, because they get to a certain point and they're like, I didn't sign up for this level of despair. What is all this about? I just want the yoga fucking glow. Give it back to me. And from my experience, there ain't no fucking yoga glow unless you go into the darkness. So you have to face all of that, which was already there. The Ashtanga method just churned it up. It was already in your unconscious, subconscious mind. The Ashtanga method just brought it to the surface.
That's the perfect place to stop. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I didn't do anything. Thanks for having me, though.
We'll speak to you soon.
Yeah.
Really soon.
Okay.